Hi Super Friends, I'm Jason Inman. I wanted to give you what I thought were the 5 best Thor stories in no particular order. This list is all based around my personal opinion, but I still think that every book on this list will be a great read before you check out Thor Ragnarok. Number 5, Thor the Mighty Avengers. This is an 8-part miniseries that was released in 2010 by Roger Langridge and Chris Samney, and it sort of reimagines Thor in an all-ages type of title. He is, of course, in Broxton, Oklahoma. He has some romances with Jane Foster, and he's fighting frost giants. Now, this series really shines because it puts its focus on the Thor-Jane Foster dynamic and how Jane actually falls in love with a god. Also, Chris Samney's pencils make the tone of this comic book fantastic. Now, I know what you might be saying. You might be saying, I don't want to read an all-adventures, all-ages Thor comic book, but believe you me, this Thor story has so much charm, so much wit, that it makes you understand how a god trapped on Midgard can actually be a great story. Plus, it has one of the best Captain America cameos of all time. Number 4, Thor Disassembled, Thor Volume 2, number 80 to 85. This is basically Thor and the Gods versus Ragnarok. Now, this happened at the exact same time that Brian Michael Bendis was destroying the Avengers and Avengers Disassembled, so that is why this storyline is jokingly titled Thor Disassembled. Now, of course, this wasn't the first time that the Asgardian gods had faced Ragnarok. It's been hinted many times in previous Thor runs, like the Walter Simonson run, all this stuff like that. But in this story, Thor comes against the cycle of Ragnarok. And if you don't know, Ragnarok is the apocalypse for the Norse gods and their mythology. But Thor comes up against Ragnarok and has the chance to decide, does he want to end the Ragnarok cycle for good? So the gods will all die, but they won't come back. And it's his decisions and how the other characters react to that decision that actually changes the Marvel Universe for several years after this. Because, spoilers, he does end the cycle. And this leads to Thor disappearing from the Marvel Universe for over 2 years, and it's also the reason why we get that Thor clone nicknamed Ragnarok in Civil War. Now, you might think that this is an easy choice because, of course, it is a writer following a pre-established mythological storyline, but the fact that Marvel was able to take Thor off of the board of the Marvel Universe for more than 2 years, and it actually mattered, is the reason why this story makes it on the list. Number 3, Thor Volume 3, number 1 through 6. And remember I just told you how Thor went away in Ragnarok? Well, this is Thor coming back, thanks to J. Michael Straczynski and Olivier Copier. Oliver Copier. I don't know how to say his name. I apologize to Oliver right now. I'm a stupid American with bad pronunciation of foreign names. But anyways, this is Thor coming back from the end of his Ragnarok cycle after a 3-year absence. JMS, of course, is credited. He's a credited writer on the first Thor movie, which takes a lot of elements from this storyline. So when you read this storyline, you're going to be like, hey, I've seen a lot of this in the Thor movie. That's because it all comes from this storyline. Now, this is a phenomenal storyline that sort of brings the Norse gods back together and a bring the band back together storyline. This is so full of many, many memorable moments. This is the storyline that puts Asgard above Broxton, Oklahoma. This is the storyline that gives Thor his connection to Broxton, Oklahoma. This, of course, is Thor searching for Lady Sif, Lady Loki, the sheriff of Broxton, Oklahoma, having a problem with zoning laws of Asgard floating above, and it has Thor's first confrontation with Iron Man after Civil War when he finds out that Tony used the clone of him. Everything from the artwork to the scenes to the dialogue in this storyline is powerful and will hit you with bolts of lightning every time you read it. Definitely one of the best Thor stories of all time. Number 2, The God Butcher / God Bomb, Thor God of Thunder 1 through 11. Now, Jason Aaron and Esad Ribic, they rebooted Thor, of course, as part of the Marvel Now initiative. And when Marvel Now first came out, I wasn't too excited about it. But then I started reading this book. First, Esad Ribic's art looks like paintings come to life. It really brings the tone of mythology and Norse gods. Now, at this point, Thor had been kind of avoiding the Norse mythology and becoming more of like an alien science character. He fought Galactus, he's done this stuff like that. Jason Aaron takes the storyline purely back into the mythology of mortals and gods. Now, he introduces a powerful villain named Gore the God Butcher, and through a time stream jumping epic, we get to meet 3 different Thors, and Esad Ribick's artwork changes for each time period. There, of course, is the young Thor from many thousands of years ago with the Vikings and Janjaborn. He doesn't have an axe. He doesn't have Mjolnir yet. We have current day Thor, and then we have a Thor thousands of years in the future who looks exactly like Odin and actually has one eye. Now, by splitting Thor into 3 different time streams, it actually gives us an expanded view of Thor's character and his universe, and really helps us to understand the character and to understand that Thor is a god. He is an immortal. He's quite different from us, and that's the reason why he acts so. Plus, Jason Aaron introduces one of the best new Thor villains in the last 20 years. That's the reason why this is number 2. Number 1, the Suitor Saga, Thor 340 through 353. Of course, I have to end this list with the greatest Thor writer of all time. Walter Simonson had been building towards Suitor. I don't know exactly how you say that name, so go ahead and tell me down in the comments, because I honestly don't know. He had been building towards the reveal of Suitor for the first 2 years of his tenure, and bit by bit by bit, Simonson introduced little teases, little hints of all this stuff like that. This ominous doom filtered through his entire Thor run, building to this storyline. Now, when Suitor finally gets at full power, he of course puts Asgard, all of the 9 realms, and Earth at stake. And this series of issues, this arc, has so many amazing moments. Some that you wouldn't even expect if you've been a longtime Thor reader from this time period. Like Odin, Thor, and Loki standing side by side to fight and defeat Suitor. Now, this title, this storyline, had a massive impact, just like the Thor Ragnarok storyline that I was talking about before. Odin would be presumed dead for many, many years. Loki would be then in a pseudo Cold War against Thor about who would rule Asgard. And this is probably the most powerful and palpable Thor story that has not been adapted in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, we see Suitor in one of the Thor Ragnarok trailers, but we don't know how much of this storyline will be in there. I kind of think that it won't be much, because it's going to be dealing a lot with Hela and a lot with the Planet Thor storyline. But these final pages of the storyline with Odin sacrificing himself gives you an appreciation for the character something that I don't think even the movies gives you. And it makes you realize why this character is so important to Thor. And Suitor being the ultimate Thor villain is the reason why this storyline is number 1. Now, if you want to check out any of these storylines, I have links down in the description so you can get all the Thor in your brain before Thor Ragnarok.
Verily, Thor says subscribe to this channel so you can check out more episodes of Thor Ragnarok Explained for Asgard!